But Virgo was quick. She grabbed Elliot by the ankles, pulling him to the floor just before his fingertips could reach the chains. No, you don't know what you're doing, she panted. But Elliot was possessed with the strength of someone a moment away from the thing they wanted most in the world. He gave one almighty kick to free himself from Virgo's grip, hauled himself to his knees, and threw himself towards the chains held in Prisoner 42's outstretched bony fingers. And this time, he made it. Elliot clasped his fist around the shackles between the prisoner's wrists. Immediately, plumes of black smoke arose from the chains that were securing the man to the rock, melting them away like sand. The sound of mechanical laughing from deep within the earth filled the cave, making an overwhelming din. He's free! The laughter reverberated around the cave. He is free! What's happening? Shouted Elliot to Virgo. Virgo yanked out her what's what. Prisoner 42, chains, SOS, she yelled at the parchment. Sorry, I didn't quite get that, squalled the invisible quill. I said... Virgo began again, but her voice was drowned out as the ecstatic clamour from below the ground reached a deafening crescendo. The prisoner rose to his feet and threw his head back with a victorious roar. When he brought it forward again, he was no longer the ancient grey-haired scrap of a man that Elliot had so pitied. He started to grow taller, stronger, and younger. Limp black hair slithered down his long angular face, meeting a razor-thin beard that brought his chin to a piercing point. The shredded black robe began to mend itself until it swathed his body like a shadow. His dark, lifeless eyes seared into Elliot's skull, and around his throat hung a jet-black onyx heart inside a flame. The cardia of a daemon. Remember, Virgo mentioned cardias. Different immortals had different ones, and daemons, like the evil, dangerous ones, had an onyx one. The world stopped for a moment. The prisoner was the first to shatter the silence as he dusted himself down and admired his restored form. Thank you, Elliot, he said as he towered over the boy on the floor. That's so much better. Those chains stopped me feeling, well, quite myself. Who are you? Stammered Elliot. How remiss of me, drawled the man. My apologies. Two millennia underground have dulled my manners. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Thanatos, Daemon of Death, King of Daemons. Nonsense, scoffed Virgo. There are no daemons left. Mighty Zeus destroyed them all long ago. Thanatos held out his onyx cardia for Virgo to survey. I think I'm rather better positioned to judge that more than you. And I know far more about mighty Zeus than you could ever imagine, Thanatos added. I did what you asked, said Elliot. You have to help my mum. Not necessarily, said Thanatos, stepping over him and grabbing a handful of Virgo's silver hair, yanking her clean off the floor. Yes, you do, said Elliot frantically. You said. Ah, there's the thing, said Thanatos, carrying Virgo across the cave, oblivious to her kicking and screaming. He reached the boulder and moved it aside effortlessly, as if it was made of paper, stabbing daylight into the cave. I said it. I never swore it. Vast, vast difference. It makes sense that someone this evil, or seems to be this evil, would go back on their word like that. You lied, shouted Elliot, holding back angry tears. He charged at Thanatos, determined to knock the cheating daemon into the middle of next week. But at that last moment, Thanatos deftly sidestepped the attack, sending Elliot crashing into the cave wall. And as of you, my dear, said Thanatos gleefully, shaking Virgo by the hair, his eyes burning with delight, it's time you went back to the Zodiac Council where you belong. Now, which piece of you shall I send first? Elliot pulled his winded body upright. Are you going to kill her? He asked, unable to look at Virgo's tortured face. Gracious, no. She's only a child. I'm not a savage, said Thanatos, wrapping his fist more tightly around her hair. But I'm really going to enjoy not killing her. The daemon walked slowly towards Elliot, dragging Virgo on the floor behind him as if she was a rubbish sack, and towered over Elliot's bruised body. I am very grateful to you, Elliot, he began, and as a token of my gratitude, I'll spare you seeing what I'm about to do to your girlfriend. You're letting me go, said Elliot, looking at Virgo, lying in a heap on the floor. Absolutely. I swore that you would leave this cave. Besides, I have no further use for you. You may go. Elliot knew that outside lay safety, but his feet wouldn't let him move. What about her? He said, gesturing towards Virgo. You didn't care much about her a few moments ago, said Thanatos. I suggest this would be a terrible time to start caring about her. Elliot locked eyes with Virgo and saw her pain and her determination. Just leave, she said unsteadily. This doesn't concern you. Ah, finally, said Thanatos. Some advice worth listening to. Goodbye, Elliot. Tell no one what you have seen, or you'll be seeing me again. Elliot took a few slow steps towards the tunnel. Virgo wasn't going to die, he told himself, but there were worse things than dying, he told himself too. He looked back. The death demon waved his fingers in dismissal. Run along now, there's a good boy. Elliot sighed. There was nothing more he could do for Virgo. She wouldn't die, but he could, and who would take care of Mum if he did try and help her? He looked towards the daylight as Thanatos dangled his prey again. Now then, my dear, what have we here? Elliot tried to block out Virgo's screams as he reached a narrow opening. He crouched down to crawl through the tunnel to where the sunlight was shining on the empty field, probably on the other side of Stonehenge. The coast was clear. Elliot could go back to his life, and no one would ever know. Except for him. He would know everything. Elliot looked behind him once again. Thanatos was there, shaking Virgo like a puppet on a string, delighted by her screams. A golden glint then caught Elliot's eye. The sunlight was gleaming on something on the floor. It was the flask containing Thanatos' ambrosia. It must have fallen out of Virgo's pocket when she tried to move the boulder. Elliot picked it up, and he knew exactly what he had to do. Thanatos, he yelled into the cave. Your ambrosia here. It'll keep, the daemon shouted back. I expect I'm going to work up quite a thirst. I'll drink it once I'm done with her. Taking a deep breath, Elliot went back into the cave. Not necessarily, he said, opening the flask and tipping it so the silver liquid teetered on the brink of the rim. Let her go. Thanatos looked murderously at Elliot. Don't be foolish, he seethed. You've made a powerful ally here today, boy. Don't turn me into an enemy. This will be the last time I ask you. Put it down. Elliot then replied with, and this will be the last time I ask you. Let her go. I mean it, Elliot. So do I, said Elliot, allowing a drop of the sacred liquid to spill onto the ground, where it immediately evaporated into a golden wisp. The two adversaries stood motionless with their bargaining chips, Thanatos holding Virgo and Elliot holding the flask. I'll put her down when you give me the flask, offered Thanatos. No, you first, said Elliot. I said that I would put her down. Swear it this time, said Elliot. His latest lesson in daemon negotiation fresh in his mind, and that you won't throw her and you won't give me her back in pieces or damage her in any way, he added quickly, running through the most likely of loopholes. He spilt another drop to underline how serious he was. Elliot's really smart here. He's not falling for the same trick again. He's making Thanatos say, swear it. You can't just say it, because Thanatos said that he would help his mum. But then when Elliot said, oh, are you going to help my mum now? He said, oh, I said it. I didn't say I'll swear it, so I'm not going to help her. And Thanatos is trying to use the same trick here. Thanatos said, oh, I said I'll put her down. But Elliot is now going, oh, you have to swear it this time. You have to swear it. And loopholes, when Elliot is thinking about loopholes here, loopholes are really tricky ways of getting out of something. So Thanatos got out of helping Elliot's mum by just saying, oh, I only said it, I didn't swear it. So Elliot's thinking on the same kind of wavelength. He's thinking in the same way. Because Thanatos may give Virgo back to Elliot, but he may break her arm or really injure her. So Elliot's thinking of all these things to try and get Virgo back safely. Fine, said Thanatos. Seeing the ambrosia drop float into nothing. I swear it on the sticks. Elliot then screwed the top back onto the flask. Let's let go in 3, 2, 1. Elliot, duck! Screamed Virgo as she and the flask flew simultaneously through the air. And this time Elliot listened, for no sooner had the flask landed in Thanatos' hand than his huge fist swung, blasting a hole in the rock where Elliot's head had been moments previously. You stupid boy, shouted Thanatos, standing before him. I showed you mercy, I spared your life. A mistake I will not make again. You swore that I would leave the cave, said Elliot quickly. I did, said Thanatos, drawing his fist back once again. But I never swore that you'd leave so alive. For the second and final time, Elliot, goodbye. Had Elliot ever wondered what it was like to have his body obliterated by supernatural strength of an immortal death demon? He couldn't have imagined the soul-wrenching pain he was about to suffer. But two things then prevented him from finding out. As Thanatos launched his fist to smash Elliot, an invisible force violently repelled the daemon, sending him tumbling onto the cave floor. Elliot didn't understand. He hadn't even been touched. Then, before Thanatos could take another shot, Virgo threw her arms open wide, transformed into her constellation, whipped Elliot up into a warm glow, and whooshed him down the tunnel to safety in a shower of golden light. We'll find out what happens in the next chapter with Virgo and Elliot, and maybe Thanatos will come after him. We'll find out.